Welcome, welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, and with me is Thursday evening. It is review night. Returning from this harrowing, not so holiday weekend in the hospital last weekend is the colorful Chris Hall.
Hello, hello. Back from my brush with death.
Well, don't laugh about that. That could very easily have been the case. You were toxic.
Yeah, I was. Yep, I had a cat scratch on my arm that I didn't even think about. I got it. It had pretty much healed, but I'm pretty sure that was the source, or that was the reason why I was in the hospital. So,
Really?
yeah.
Okay, that's odd.
I didn't realize it until I got home, and I'm looking at my arm, going, "Oh yeah, that's right. She scratched me. I bet you that's the reason."
Do you think you got an infection from the cat scratch?
Yep.
That's wow.
I would bet dollars to donuts.
That's crazy, dude, because you get scratched by the dogs even more often than that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, wow, it's a wonder you're not. Well, like I said, you need to be the boy in the bubble.
That's about it. Well, I was out smoking some chicken earlier, just like an hour ago, and so I'm going to get the chicken off the grill, or putting barbecue sauce on the chicken, right? And all of a sudden, I step in a dog hole. Well, I lose my balance. I go running head first, out of control, straight into the house next door. Barbecue sauce everywhere. I'm on the floor. I'm in the dirt.
So when you're here, you should be back in the hospital.
Luckily, nothing but a little scratch on my leg. So,
hopefully, nothing but a bruised ego again, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
okay, well,
damn dog holes.
Let's see if we can get through this without you falling apart.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, geez. Oh, by the way, our other co-host John, you may have heard he had a kidney stone. He hasn't passed it yet, but he's not here because yesterday was his birthday, and he went out of town with family, so he's having birthday week basically, and hopefully he'll pass that while he's out there. And
right.
That, and we don't have to worry about it too much. But in the meantime, let's get fun and start over with this thing and get talking about comics. Back issue 159, 1095, publisher TwoMorrows Publishing. Writers and artists are various for ages 13 up. This is an in-review historical review magazine released June 11th, 2025. About what I thought. As with all back issues, this magazine has a specific theme. In this case, the 40th anniversary of the seminal series DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, because I knew the whole issue was going to be dedicated to this one topic, I didn't quite feel so overwhelmed with things as I will when I talk about the Martians when we talk about CRYPTOLOGY number 3. And if I'm being honest, I have more interest in the history of the Crisis on Infinite Earths than I do in Martian attacks or Mars attacks. So anyway, that having been said, as enjoyable as many of these articles were in this issue, I was exhausted by the end of the 80 pages.
I would imagine so.
I often wonder whether or not Crisis, however, would have come to pass if my late mother's employer, Toy City, had not sold to Toys R Us in 82 or in 83. It was late 82, early 83 when they sold. Would the 10K per title sales that Toy City did for all of DC, all of Harvey, all of RG, all of Marvel, etc., would have that made enough of a significant difference to what those companies were feeling in the early 80s with the so-called death of the newsstand and the shift to the direct market? Or would it have only prolonged the inevitable? Or would the industry have just abandoned the efforts that my mother put into marketing comics and toys together because the majority of the other so-called newsstand market retailers weren't marketing their products? We'll never know. Unfortunately, that's a rabbit hole I can't go down because several key people who might have had some answers to that, like my late mother and the late Carol Kalish and recently late Peter David, to name a few, are no longer with us. It's extremely difficult to speculate or hypothesize without experts that were there at the time to give us the pertinent information to really think about it. So back to the mag. I enjoyed several of the articles in terms of historical base knowledge. I personally was never one to know all the various multiversal worlds in the DC multiverse. The article that was done about all those was written by John Wells. He did a very nice, quick intro to not only the past multiverse, but also the new ones that have been coming into existence in the postmodern era of DC once they launched the multiverse. I think it was it Morrison who did that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there are articles discussing whether or not you can go back home to different universes, different eras of the characters. And as so many fans tend to be overly fascinated by the eras they were kids and teenagers in, that's probably a good article, right?
Right.
Now DC has tried to play into that over the past 40 years to both good and frankly disastrous results. So if you're a youngster under 30, probably not familiar with this stuff, or even someone like Chris who didn't really get into stuff until later.
Very true.
This would be an ideal magazine to get as a means to better familiarize yourself with this particular topic. And I give it 5 out of 5 stars.
I was never... I'm not a fan of any multiverse. I think it's just... It just gets way too messy. It's just too convoluted. I don't know. It's just... I don't think it's a good idea.
Oh, that's fair enough. Okay, our next one is one of yours.
Alrighty. We have Let This One Be a Devil, number 4 for $4.99, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Publisher Dark Horse Comics, writer James Tynion. The fourth, Steve Fox. Art is by Peter Kowalski. Colors by Brad Simpson. Covers by Gavin Fullerton. Peter Kowalski with Simpson. Lettering is Tom Napolitano. Editor Greg Lockard, Daniel Chabon, Chuck Howard-Leese, and Foster K. Cubbins. This is genre fantasy horror, released June 4th, 2025. What it's about. Unable to prevent his younger brother from entering the monster hunt, Henry follows him into the woods and discovers for himself what truly stalks the Pine Barrens, and why its legend has gripped imaginations for centuries. Yeah, that was one of the most underwhelming endings in a comic ever. Like, don't even bother with this underwhelming snooze fest, where monsters are real, but they're just really sad little boys who need a hug from their mother at the heart.
Yeah, and it's not just the little brother of the guy in the 18th century. They fast forward to the future, and it's something else.
Right.
And isn't this one of the shittiest ever produced covers that you've ever seen?
Yeah, that is something, man. Let me tell you, that's
What is that supposed to be?
Like the Devil's Eye or something, maybe. I don't know.
And why is this a god awful color palette? It is. The whole series covers were grungy mud brown tone.
Right.
Are you fucking trying to drive your audience away? Because no one's going to notice that. They're going, what is that? You know, just utter disappointment of a final issue for the miniseries. Personally, I'd like to just write off Tynion Fourth forever after this. Between this drab, droll, true story and his wishing that he was Joss Whedon over in his other series, Something is Killing the Children, I've pretty much lost any and all faith in the guy.
Right.
That's just me. You give it a 1.5 star. I'm giving it 2 stars, and I'm being very generous, I think. But let's look at the art. The art itself, Kowalski is not doing a bad job. Simpson's doing his usual blasé, one-tone color. But okay, that's how most of the book has looked. But finally, they go to the future, and it's 2019. Wow, you've got colors.
Right? Everything is bright colored in the future.
You got light sources. But unfortunately, he's made Kowalski look really bad, or actually Kowalski made himself look bad, because look at all the wrinkles in these clothes.
Yeah, someone is lacking a dryer. That's for dang sure.
Well, either they're lacking a dryer, they're wearing clothes that are 3 sizes too big for them, and they're just hanging all over them. I don't know which.
I guess he must have read Dynamic Wrinkles by Bernard Hogarth before he did this book.
Well, this is how he always draws, though. I mean, this is how he does everything. You know, he does a lot. So it's just like, I don't know. He needs to just like ixnay the
right. Right. But I will say that the colors did improve in this issue. So
yeah, they improved a lot with this stuff. But I mean, okay, now they're supposed to be acting the whole time. We don't know how to act. And this is the new fake Jersey Devil.
Yeah, they're doing mocap is what they're doing basically.
Yeah, and then the real Jersey Devil's hiding in the woods behind them, watching this take place, and he's sad, so he has to go talk to his mommy.
That's about it too. That's the premise of this issue. Jersey Devil sad, must hug mommy.
Yes, must hug mommy because mommy understands. So just,
it's got
the art's the good part, but the story is just blah.
Yeah, it ends with this big old like, "You will ever be my son."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. There's so much they could have done to just at least make this a little more exciting. I was holding out hope because I'm a big fan of cryptids and mythology, stuff like that. But just there was nothing here.
Oh well, you win some, you lose some.
Yep.
Next one, comic book creator number 38. It's another TwoMorrows publishing publication for $10.95. Same type of thing. Interview in the Historical Review magazine. Came out June 11th, 2025. What this one's about? Well, this issue has an in-depth interview with Rick Veitch of Swamp Thing, Brat Pack, Max Immortal, The One, and Heavy Metal fame. It also has an interesting article about Studio Zero, which I'd never even heard of, which consisted of Steve Englehart, Alan Weiss, Jim Starlin, Frank Brunner, and Tom Orzechowski.
Wow.
And that's a pretty solid lineup, if you ask me.
Yeah, for never having been heard of before I've never heard of it either. So
yeah, so those two pieces, those two articles were worth the price alone. They had a Roy Thomas piece, which I could have done without because I'm kind of getting sick and tired of hearing Roy talk, basically. And I also like the Errol McCarthy feature, which is about, for those who don't know who Errol McCarthy is, he's an artist who works on cartoons. Very underrated magazine, very underrated cartoonist. Did a nice article and interview with him as well. I'm going to probably have to return to a more in-depth discussion on this magazine because of the Studio Zero article. The Veitch and McCarthy articles do have some teeth to them as well, even though the Studio Zero and McCarthy are shorter pieces than the Veitch. The Veitch is like a 14, 15-page interview, so it's long.
Wow.
But unfortunately, I just had way too much to read this week to really sink into it. But really worthwhile issue. I give it a 4 out of 5. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which is Cryptology number 3 for $10.95. Same kind of presence. This is what TwoMorrows does. They all just brought it all in 1 week because of what's been going on with the distributors. They had all their books on hold until just now, so they just all showed up at once. So what is this one about? I am the cryptologist, and I'm back with Peter Normanton and my horrible little troop of ne'er-do-wells to inflict the dread of Mars attacks upon you, and boy, do they. The band cards, model kits, the Despicable Comics, along with a few words from the film's deranged storyboard artist, Peter Van Schalle. The chilling poster art of Leno Brown gets brought up from my vault from Steve Cronenberg, along with a host of terrifying puppets from film and more pre-code comic books that Dr. Wernham would like you to forget. Tim Lee spends more hammer time on that studio's films, and we run from another killer B movie, 1959's The Manster, and Justin Marriott flips through obscure 70s fear-filled paperback covers. It's more retro horror to satiate your sinister side. I'm annoyed that Diamond never managed to get number 2 shipped when it was supposed to be out last January, and I still don't have number 2, but I got number 3.
That old Diamond. Yeah.
I feel cheated there, but at least this magazine is a self-contained magazine for each issue for the most part. There's sometimes a part one things going on, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm kind of surprised that Reynold Brown's poster art isn't something that Aaron Lepresti hasn't explored over on his channel, because he always likes to talk about movie posters and classic quality art stuff. And it's like, he's into that. So I'm like, that guy does a absolutely iconic work. He does posters for the Attack of the 50 Woman, Creature of the Black Lagoon, The Raven, The Mask of Red Death with Vincent Price, Michael Landon's I Was a Teenage Werewolf, just to name a few. It just sounds like something that would be right up Aaron's alley. So I'm a little bit surprised that he hasn't covered it. So getting an article about Brown's career, and even these small images that are in the article, imagine having these full-size posters, was fun to read about. And I'm going to show that article in just a little bit here to show you guys what I mean. Let me go ahead and do that right now, actually. So it's right up at the front of the book. I mean, these are kind of small samples, but I mean, look how beautiful that is.
Yeah, those are iconic.
You know, and it's like, wow, you know, I mean, there we go. The full effect of the 50-foot woman.
Right. Gorgeous stuff. And
then the full, what do they call these? The ones that are extra large and wide, the posters to the theater. I forget what they call them.
Oh God, I can't remember either. So
yeah, because I mean, there's a certain type of poster called there. So I wish I remember what they were called. But yeah, just beautiful stuff. I could look at that. Just even the stuff that really has nothing to do with the fantasy, like Gregory Peck's World in His Arms. It's just a really nice poster.
Subway sheets?
Not sure. But here's some more. The tarantula. And just that beautiful Raven poster with Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff. Just great facial expressions. And then, of course, the Michael Landon I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
It looks like it was called a Subway sheet.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe that is what they are. I don't remember. It doesn't sound familiar to me, but it could be right. So yeah, lots of cool stuff there on that particular article. So what else was there? This cool magazine. The next article was about the forgotten, if you're not a real comics movie fan, the films of Paul Blaisdell, often overlooked for his comic strip work in Army Times in the 50s. His career never really took off in comics, and he's largely only celebrated posthumously for his early work as a designer in low-budget B science fiction and horror films, such as It Conquered the World, The She Creature, Invasion of the Saucer Man, and a few others. Michael H. Price does a nice little article about that. Then the Mars Attacks comes, and boy, does it ever. They're all good articles, but you know, I was kind of burned out by the end of the fourth article in a row, and there's 7.
Oh my.
Yeah, and then they add War of the Worlds right after it. So I was just like, I'm burned out. You know, I don't want to hear anything more about Mars. I mean, you know. Then they finally get to the 1959 movie The Manster, and all I can say about that is it would be something that we as a review crew would MST the 3K the crap out of that.
Yes, we would.
Then we get a much too brief article about Charlton's horror comics. Given how much space was dedicated to other things in this issue, Mars. Given that this is only a part 1, I really think they should have left some of that other Martian stuff to the side and expanded this article personally. That's what I would have done. The article about classic horror paperback covers was also too short as well. The Puppet article I did not read because I just wasn't interested. Maybe I'll read it later. The Hammer Time article on the film The Gorgon was good. The stuff that wasn't the Martian related or puppets, I was really pleased with. The Martian stuff was solid. It was just too damn much of it for one magazine. I mean, over half the mag was Mars related stuff. I mean, if you're going to do Mars Attacks that much, we should have made Mars like the main feature of the cover.
Right.
But anyway, 3 out of 5 because it was just too much Martian stuff. If they had some of the other stuff more thoroughly featured, I probably would give it a higher rating. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely.
Okay.
I was never that big of a fan of Mars Attacks anyway, so.
Yeah. Destroying Angel Lumen, number 3, $10 for 56-page book from Bounce House Comics. Writer-artist is Tony McMillan. Genre supernatural action-adventure, released June 1st, 2025. What it's about, Esteban battles the Dark Red Angel as his armor turns red with the Lumen. That's the Esteban's armor. Turns red with the Lumen. Maybe even changing him into something else. But is the Red Angel testing Esteban or merely toying with him? And what is the Lumen actually doing to Esteban? And what price will he pay to destroy the Angel? What did I think of this? Well, there's a whole lot of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back references in this episode, particularly in the way certain characters are referring to "You cannot break, kill me, Obi-Wan Force speaks, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine."
You strike me down, Darth, I shall become more powerful than you ever imagine.
Yeah. Esteban gets his hand chopped off like Luke does in Empire. And the Red Lumen alluding to the power of the dark side of the Force and how it powers his armor, but it also like feeds on him, and it's kind of this weird thing. But even in these clear influences, McMillan does make the story his own, and it twists and turns into him exploring the myth of the river and goddess Styx from Greek mythos, the Orwellian dystopic elements of Esteban suppressing his own self through his armor, and how the armor isn't just feeding off of the Lumen, but also off of his own psyche itself. And so it's not like a complete knockoff of something. It's a combination of different influences. And he does a good enough job to make it his own. He's putting forth a really solid series with the Lumen brand. I do wish it wasn't $10 an issue, because I know even for a 56-page book, many people are going to feel like that's too high of a price. And I totally understand the perspective, but it's not like it's unreasonable, because the page count is more than 2 regular comic book stories, and most comics these days are $4.99 each. So you're getting basically two comics for the price of, more page count than 2 pages. More page count than 2 issues for the same price as 2 issues.
Yeah, $10 for a 56-page book is not unreasonable at all. So
yeah. So overall, this has been very much worth my investment so far as a crowdfunded mail order subscription title. There's going to be 4 issues, and this is the 3rd one. And I give it 4 out of 5. Let's take a quick look at some of the art for it. Again, here's the cover. Got that kind of shiny. And of course, Tony did sign these as well. So,
very nice.
And the artwork is, what Tony does. So if you're not familiar with his work, or you think it's too childish looking or whatever, I respect that. It's kind of a mixed acquired taste of sorts, but I think he does a good job for what he does for his style.
It fits the story, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there's his armor getting illuminated by the Lumen again.
So would you say this is more of a story favorite book for you or an art favorite book for you?
I would say I appreciate the story more than the art, but I do appreciate the art well enough. Okay. It's not like the art ruins the story. Does that make sense?
Yes. I just wondered which one you like more, the art or the story.
It's hard for me to say because he does a lot of interesting things with this. I mean, he does explore a lot of different techniques in his work. I know that John would like scream at that dot matrix background there.
Zipatone.
But I mean, but can you see like the Sienkiewicz effect in his work, the Frank Miller effect in his work?
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And so it's like I can see what he's trying to do. He pops the head off the angel, and it doesn't stop him really. But it's that kind of a thing where his head just spins like a boomerang and reattaches.
Oh, like a Japanese vampire.
Yeah, so it's like pretty cool. That's the angel Lumen, and he has to keep fighting.
Yeah, definitely some interesting visuals here.
Yeah, so it's like, and then he has this friend who's like trying to get him to not be with the dark side, shall we say. He's having a nightmare about losing his hand. And he's like, wake up. Oh, it was all a dream. Nope, sorry, you did lose your hand.
Got your hand.
Yeah, so yeah, but anyway, enjoyable book. There's one more issue, and I'm interested. I'm looking forward to seeing where Tony takes it next. Go ahead and put this back. The one thing I will say is the book is so thick that it has a hard time getting shot.
Unfortunately, that book is gonna, I think, come out of its binding.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it.
Well, that's just I don't know. It's saddle stitched, and it probably should have been perfect bound, but the way it is,
Right. Okay.
Our next book is Heavy Metal #1, or 321 if you're going for the legacy count. It's a new version that just came out, $14.99. Various artists and writers. This is the various covers as well. There was 26 covers for this stupid thing.
26 covers. That's ridiculous.
Yes. I got the B cover by Frank Frazetta depicted, and I thought this was the main cover. It wasn't. The main cover was actually by the late Greg Hildebrandt. It was one of his last pieces.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be like expensive as heck to get if you can find it. But here's this is just a kind of like an old Rosetta piece they used.
Yep.
But anyway, editor is Frank Forte. Genre adult fantasy science fiction, released April 30th, 2025. What's it about? Heavy Metal Magazine is back, heavier than ever. This relaunch brings the world's greatest illustrated magazine back to the forefront of comics. One of the magazine's original lineup of legends, Inkney by Lau, returns with the English language adaptation of his acclaimed Bug series. Michael Conrad, Hello Darkness, and In Bloom will be teaming up with the Greek comics legend Elias Kyriazis, who does Collapse and What We Wish For an all-new series called Millstone. Sorry about that. I had a bug go right by my face. The outrageous Burton and Sib return with Poor Monsters by Antonio Segura and Jose Ortiz, as well as Vicente Segrele's classic The Mercenary, the English language debut of Javesky's cult sci-fi heroine Sixella. Guido Kripax's classic character Valentina returns by the hands of writer-artist Sergio Garassi. So there's all kinds of cool stuff, and Heavy Metal will harness the power of its own rich stable of characters as well, starting with the ultimate Tarkarian warrior Tarna. Writing duo Leah Moore and John Repion will pen Tarna's ongoing adventures, accompanied by art by Anna Morozova. Also featuring one-shots of Cold Debt War B-17 by Craig Wilson, Grimaldi by Kieran Grant, and Legends of Tarna by Joseph Michael Winsner. Fernando Dangino brings a classic short cyberpunk story, Lester That Old Feeling. The Return of the Classic Strips of the Bust by Paul Kirchner, and June 2050 by John Workman. Visionary creators David Quinn and Tim Individual will deliver Transcendestiny. And on it goes. Dwayne Harris gives us the fantasy tale they dug too deep. Jim Rugg exposes Kecksburg UFO, and John Wayshak writes and draws a horror short called Cobalt. There's interviews, pinup galleries, prose fiction as well. 200 action-packed pages. What did I think of this? Well, it's an improvement over what the magazine had been in its death throes under the previous management. I will give it that. But it still isn't heavy metal to me. Something just feels off. I mean, yes, you brought in several modern veterans like Bilal, and you have most of the stories are 3 to 4 star level work in this book. I don't have anything to knock this issue per se. There's just some intangible that's missing, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe it just doesn't have enough of the European flair in it. The American talent people being featured isn't quite fitting the bill for what I expect from heavy metal, perhaps. I don't know. But I don't want to be unfair. I mean, you've got John Workman piece, even though it's a one-pager. You have Jim Rugg, who would be appealing for the younger generation of indie fans. So there's a lot of good content in this magazine. So I don't want to undersell the product. I don't want to like put it down or anything. You're definitely getting your $14.99 worth on every level. But maybe it's because the original magazine, Metal Hurlant, is back as well. And because that has a more worldwide feel to it, as heavy metal feels more Americanized and has for a long time, it just isn't living up to the hype for me. Also, I just don't see the point of those 26 variant covers. Kickstarter or not. Also, don't ship your magazine to stores before you fulfilled your campaign. It's disrespectful to your backers. That's another reason why I'm a little bit down on this, I think. I don't know. No, I was not a backer on this book. I thought I was, but I wasn't. I realized I had not actually backed it. But I remember how angry I was when I thought I had backed it, and where was the book, you know? When I saw it in the store. And then how angry people who had backed the campaign were at not getting their copies first. So I do understand the frustration. I give this a 4 out of 5. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at some of the stuff in the magazine. Again, nice cover from Frazetta. Nothing too spectacular. I mean, it's standard Frazetta. But I mean, we'll go back here to the back of the thing, actually. These are like the variant covers. They put all the covers in the back of the magazine.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but variant covers, it's just a blatant cash grab. That's all it is.
Well, not just that, but how many of these covers really warranted being covers?
Right.
I mean, a lot of them just aren't that great.
That Tarna one's really nice there.
Which one?
The Tarna one right there.
The color one on the left. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I didn't know which one you meant because there's like 60 bazillion Tarnas. Oh,
right. Yeah.
Did you mean that one, or did you mean the Dan Brereton one, which is a nice one? Did you like, they're all just there. It's all Tarna.
Well, she is the spokesmodel for the magazine, so.
Yeah, it's Jane Brady. Tarna. Yeah. Again, here's all these covers, and there's the one by Hildebrandt, first one, with the astronaut.
Oh, classic. Okay.
Yeah, so I would have liked to have seen that, but it it is what it is. And then there was another Hildebrandt with the car flying in space or riding the. I don't know if they're floating in space or riding on the what do you want to call it? The rings around the planet or something. Maybe I don't know, but it's just there as far as the covers go.
All I can hear is Sammy Hagar in the background going, "Heavy metal thunder."
Anyway, I mean, Inky Bilal's Bug. Okay, that's good. It's a classic story, but it's not really his absolute best work per se. It looks good, but it's kind of like that chalker. It's more of the chalk color pencils
Right.
stuff rather than his full blend of the colored pencils with the inks and stuff. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say rough, but
Feels a little cheap.
no, not cheap. I wouldn't say that. It just, it's just, it's a good story. It's not the absolute best bailout story. It's just one that hasn't been printed in a long time. It hasn't been printed in the U.S. So let's go ahead and print it. And that makes sense.
Right. So does this have, because what I always loved from Heavy Metal Magazine was the artist spotlights. Does this have artist spotlights in it?
Just a minute. We're going to look at the Mercenary from Vincent Sir Segreles a little bit. And, that looks nice.
Uh-huh.
Now, you were asking about the mostly they talk about the history of the magazine this issue, I think. There is a tribute to Greg Hildebrandt since Greg just passed away.
I always loved that the artist spotlights always like turned me on to artists that I might not necessarily have known about. Or if I knew about them, gave me more information.
Yeah, I would say that this one doesn't really have that yet. Because they're still trying to get kind of set the tone for what the magazine's going to be.
Understandable.
I would say the closest thing to an artist spotlight was the Greg Hildebrandt piece.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but, again, we got to have a Tarna book. Okay. Well, here's your Tarna story. I don't know about you, but I'm like, whatever.
Oh, very modern style.
Yeah. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't it's American looking, to me.
Yeah. Very, very American looking.
It's not that it looks bad. It's just there. But it does have a nice animation look to it.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
So we'll give them that. But overall, 4 out of 5. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Huge Detective number 5, last storyline, $3.99. Titan Comics, Adam Rose, Magenta King, colors Magenta King and Minimone. Letterer DC Hopkins, covers by Clark Bent, depicted Magenta King, Kit Wallace. Could never find out who the editor was on this series. It's like they didn't want to credit themselves for it. Makes you kind of go,
right? Maybe there wasn't one.
Things that make you go, science fiction genre, science fiction kind of mystery. It was released yesterday, June 11th, 2025. It's a race against time as Giant and Tamaki realize they've been duped and need to stop Mrs. Stubbs from a mass murdering a group of missing kids and pinning it on the Giants, causing a race war, and save the young human Manny who thinks he's a giant and just might be.
Bum, bum, bum.
Maybe it's just me, but I didn't feel like the detectives had time to make it back to the cave where Stubbs and Manny were with the kids. And I would have liked one of the kids to have died because they didn't get there in time, or that Manny sacrificed himself to protect the kids from Mrs. Stubbs. Just all a little too happy ending for my tastes. All in all, the series is reasonably okay. I enjoyed it well enough, but I doubt if the series were to be brought back with a sequel, then I'm going to have much interest. I give it 3 for this issue, and I give it 3.5 stars for the overall series. Here's yours.
All right. We have Jump Scare number 404. This is $3.99. Publisher is Dark Horse Comics. Writer is Cullen Bunn. Art Danny Luckert. And lettering is Jim Campbell. Editor is Daniel Chabon. Chuck Howat-Leese. Foster R. Cubbins. Genre is horror superhero thriller. Released June 4th, 2025. I didn't read it until just today. What it's about. Prisoner of the monstrous cult of Leviathan worshippers, JUMPSCARE unleashes the full fury of her horror movie powers. But she is not the only captive the dismal concordant has imprisoned. And what's our slasher turn hero to do when she discovers some monsters are victims too? What I thought. I sure hope that there is more of this character to come, because this book has just been an absolute blast to read. I love it. I think it's one of the absolute best books out there right now. I get that in today's market, the retailers aren't very trusting of new series characters, so the publishers only invest in so many issues at a time instead of just running them consecutively as one ongoing series. Plus, there's always the writing for the trade aspect. But even though the story here is complete, they leave you with the kind of ending that really makes you want the next issue to see what happens. As JUMPSCARE has freed all of these monsters out on the world herself, we know that her parents will manipulate her sister Allie into trying to defame her, and they will lie and claim JUMPSCARE as the villain. Does this mean it's going to be JUMPSCARE and her newfound army of monsters against her parents, who are clearly behind everything evil in this world? And isn't it just so nice that they play the evangelistic righty-tighties in this? And what does that mean exactly? We will have to wait for the sequel series to find out, I guess. Sure, hope this series sold well enough to continue. So sad my favorite book has come to an end. Bring on the sequels.
Okay, what did I think? The plot for this issue was largely predictable here at the end. There was a nice death scene from one of the characters, Grindhouse, mid-issue, and you can see that Bunn and Luckert are truly having fun making this book, and that carries over to the reader's experience, I think. So many comics today just feel like crapped out, a story for a paycheck, and Colin Bunn, with his penchant for having a reputation for crapping out as many as 20 titles out in a given month, is the poster child of example of that. So I'm really glad he put some effort into this. Like Chris, I hope the series does sell long enough to continue. They give you just enough at the end to make you plot your own expectations as to what might come next. So I don't really want there to be too long of a delay for the next series, because if there is, it may create too many undue expectations among the readership. You need to learn, if you meant to circumvent expectations, you really have to try to really wow your audience. You have to leave them without any specificities of set expectations. So don't hit at something and then never give it.
Right. Exactly.
Chris is giving it a 5. I'm giving this one a 4. Overall, I think we'll both give it around a 4.5 for the overall series. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I two things. I really love that this is a female heroine who's kind of a bad girl, but she's not sluttied up. You know, she's just a teenage girl dressed in an appropriate costume. Yes, it's blood and guts and horror, but I just really appreciate the fact that they didn't go that way. And 2, damn, I want to see this as an animated movie.
Wow, what are some high scores? We're doing high scores today. Okay, all right.
I really want to see this as an animated movie. That would be so freaking cool.
For the artwork. And again, here she is, like you say, she's covered, from head to toe. She's not in any inappropriate outfit. They got her trapped in a little cell, and she's using her powers at first to just...
It's not showing.
It's not?
No.
Oh, how about that?
There we go. There you go.
Thank you for telling me it wasn't showing. But I like how they do the tickets and name what the weapon she's using for what film is each one.
Yeah, absolutely love that. That's brilliant.
And it's hilarious. Yeah, how nothing is actually affecting the door, all these weapons, and then, well, all right, I'm just had enough of your shit.
Like, you haven't seen enough horror movies, obviously.
Right. And it's like, let me drive this car out here now.
Yeah,
and I know if John were here, he'd go, but the lights on the car are that damn dot matrix again.
But you know what? I thought that it was really well done on that car. I thought it worked.
It's appropriate. And it's only in that one section in that area, not the whole book over and over and over.
Right. And for those who don't know, this page with the car is an ode to, of course, Carrie and the older movie, The Car.
Yeah, The Car, right. So yeah. But I love the name of the name of the movie that they're saying The Car comes from. Blood and Oil Don't Mix from 1972.
Right. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, you got to wonder, how did this girl watch all these crazy ass movies from all these old movies from whenever, you know? It's
well, she has Tubi, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway, love that book. Anyway, next book is Metal Hurlant #1 for $29.99. Double the cost of that heavy metal book, which is about 200 pages.
But
yes, Humanoids Publishing, writers and artists various. Editors, curators are Jerry Frizen, Fabrice Geiger, Amanda Lucido, and Jake Thomas. Genre, fantasy science fiction anthology, released May 16th, 2025. I got it like a week and a half ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago in the mail from my Kickstarter campaign. This is the original acclaimed graphic fantasy illustrated magazine that inspired heavy metal in America. And it's back in all of its spectacular glory. 272 pages of mayhem. 50 years after the debut of Metal Hurlant in France, this iconic and genre-defining publication is finally coming to the English language and in bigger and bolder form than ever before as a quarterly anthology published by Humanoids, featuring both classic and new stories by the world's best comics and fantasy illustrators. What did I think? I'm not going to lie. I feel like this is the real deal right here. Not to crap on heavy metal. I love heavy metal. But this has more worldly feel to it. Maybe it's because it's reprinting some of the classic Mobius right out of the gate. And while I have nothing but the utmost respect for Enki Bilal, Mobius kicks his ass and everybody knows it. This also has Kazan. This also has Droulet. This also has Jodorowsky. I mean, it's like they're bringing in the top level of the best of the Europe just out of the gate. And then they bring in modern American talent that's top level, like James Stokoe, on top of it for new stuff. I mean, sure, if you're familiar with these old classic storylines or already have them in your collection, and I do have a lot of them myself already, maybe you feel like Hurlant doesn't deliver enough, maybe too much reprint, not new content compared to the American heavy metal. And I suppose that's a possible way to look at things, given the price and the difference in the price tag. But the quality of the paper, the quality of the printing for Hurlant, as well as the fact that it's more page count, is so much higher overall that I find it difficult to compare the two as far as the price point for that purpose. That having been said, Hurlant will need to be able to find high-level European talents of the modern era, because there's only so many reprints of Mobius, Kazan, Bilal, etc., that you can represent before savvy American comics audiences like myself, who already went and got all that stuff, are going to lose interest. And there's a metric shit ton of creators from Europe that do amazing stuff that American audiences are entirely unfamiliar with. So go look for them and go get them and bring them to bear, folks.
Right.
Both Hurlant and heavy metal have a lot of potential to reinvigorate American comic scene if the retailers and consumers give them a legitimate chance. But they cannot be the only items on the menu. We also need Dark Horse Presents back, only in this format, not the little 48-page, $3.99, blah, blah. Give me a big freaking Dark Horse book. We also need a horror genre magazine of this format. Not these silly, willy-nilly shit that Oni and Boom are putting out. Ooh, don't get me wrong. You know I wanted to like the Oni EC brand. You know I wanted all those books to shine. And you also know how much I've been criticizing them.
Right.
Same thing with Shudder. I love Shudder, but it's just not enough. You know, we need something better.
Right.
But as for this particular issue of Metal Hurlant, it's pretty much the best we can hope for. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, just because it is mostly because it's just the classic stuff that you just can't ignore. You can't deny this is the best stuff.
Right. So this is $29.99. But when I say but, I mean but, like the lady in the third row of the church choir be having. But
Yeah. You know, nice, very thick, hard. The paper stock is double the thickness of what you get out of a heavy metal magazine. I'm going to show you the difference here in a way, if I can. Can you? Well, it's hard to tell because this is all. This one's much more solid for Hurlant. Can you see how much thinner heavy metal is?
Mm-hmm. It's a larger format, but it's thinner. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'd rather have the thicker page count myself. Some of the newer stuff that is in Metal Hurlant, like George DeVos here, yeah, nice looking stuff. It's not, great, but it's all right, but what really is going to make you want stuff is the Philip Goulet.
Yeah, just gorgeous work.
Yes, you were a raging madman. You were an atomic bomb. He really was. Just, this again is Goulet, and you're not going to find comics like this. There's so many. You're going to find comics like this, but you're going to find them at Fantagraphics for like $40-$50 a pop.
Right, exactly.
More Goulet.
Yeah, that is just breathtakingly gorgeous.
Even the black and white stuff.
Yeah, and I love me some black and white.
Yeah, and this is I want to get his name right. Just give me a second. Jean-Claude Dahl.
Yeah. Yeah, Joey. Classic, stunning artwork. Yep. But that's not all.
No. They're just like I said, there's newer guys that I'm not as familiar with in here. I'm not really familiar with Frederick Peters. His stuff is not bad either.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, there's granted it's I sorry about the boob shot that you might have noticed, but that is what you get. That is what you're going to get, unfortunately, with Metal Hurlant.
It is Metal Hurlant, yeah. So
yeah. So anyway, here's your Mobius, which a little bit underwhelming for Mobius in a way, but then is it?
No, not underwhelming at all.
Well, compared when he does his detail work, you kind of sometimes wonder, and then now you're getting a little bit more into his details.
Right. Well, what's the guy, like 95 now?
Well, this is a reprint, so actually Mobius. I don't think Mobius is around. I think he passed away now. But,
okay.
But yeah, I can't show that. But here's James Stokoe's stuff. Red Planet Tomatoes. That's a heck of a name.
Love it.
But we're gonna go see. Oh wow, that's a nice big red tomato. We're gonna eat that. No, you're not. So, yeah. But and then you get stuff that are like just really interesting. This is hilarious. This is a one-page story about grasshoppers called carapaces.
And the world needs more one-page stories about grasshoppers.
Well, no. They're going at it. They're having sex. We'll teach you to have sex. But yeah, it just good stuff in here overall. So just lovely book. And then there's articles and interviews talking about Arzak and Durf Buchter's My Friend Dahmer. Thorough reviews type stuff that you're used to seeing.
Right.
Just really good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next.
Oh, are you gonna show him the foldout?
No.
Oh, okay.
You want me to show the foldout? He wants me to show the foldout. Okay. I hadn't planned on it, but I'll go get it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This came with a foldout comic as well from Mobius. Here's the cover. And the reason I didn't want to do this is because it takes forever to fold it out. But
well, you don't have to completely do it. They get the end. They get the gist of it.
No, they need to see what it is. You get a complete story.
Yeah. Now that is freaking cool.
And on the other side, you get the giant poster.
That's why I say, but
yeah,
there's more.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I was really careful with folding that thing back up. That's why I didn't want to do that, but that's okay. Yeah, but that's the other reason why I got a 5.
The sacrifices Raven makes for the fans.
Yeah. So there you go. But okay, let's go on to the next crazy thing because we got more to go. Or no, we don't. I guess Hurlant was the last one. So next week, you've got some books to pick up on because you're behind since, well, you've been sick.
Yes, sir.
You're going to talk about The Slasher's Apprentice, number 2. You'll Do Bad Things, number 3. And possibly, if it comes out, what's your favorite comic that's not been finished? The one with from Image that Joey likes or mentioned to you.
Oh, the fashion.
Yeah, fashion. I was a teenage fashion serial killer or whatever. Number 3.
Yes.
Yeah. So that one's not on the list because we don't know if we're going to get it in time to review next week. Hopefully, these other ones will be available for him to read online. The Lost Worlds of George Metzger. That's a 380-page book.
Wow.
Bug Wars number 5, Blood and Thunder number 2, Epitaphs from the Abyss number 12, which is the last issue of that run. Usagi Yojimbo, Mouse Guard, Dawn of the Black Axe number 3. Maybe back issue will be back out again because they're so far behind. They're because of what happened with Diamond. They're just keep pushing everything out. But that's the next one that they're supposed to be having out. That's supposed to be their swimsuit edition because they have all the swimsuit issues of all the different eras. So I'm like, really? Back issue swimsuit edition? Okay, this is different.
Right.
We got from the crowdfunding scene Craig A. Taylor's Xian, Thief of if I read it from the actual book. Kor Shavara. There we go. And then if Benjamin shows up, that's an interesting one. That's supposed to be from Oni as well, I think, or Boom. I can't remember which one's putting it out, but that's supposed to be a weird story about a science fiction author who died but comes back like 50 years later alive and he doesn't know why.
Interesting premise.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Do you have any other things else? Joey says we got it in. Which one did you get in? What are you talking about? I'm not sure what he means, but he'll have to be more clarifying. Oh, he's got it. Well, okay. Well, you got it in. That doesn't mean that he got it online because sometimes the online versions that he gets to read, they delay a week after the
right
stores. And unfortunately, the only store up where he's at doesn't really carry stuff like this.
No.
So he has to get them online. But we appreciate you letting us know.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, I do appreciate that.
So anyway, what are we doing tomorrow?
We are reviewing The Queen of Blood.
Yes, from 19
John Saxon, Basil Rathbone, and Dennis Hopper. All-star cast.
Yes, and like I said, John's having his week off for his birthday. He'll luckily have passed the kidney stone in the meantime. But he was like, "You guys can watch this one. I don't care. I'll kick you if you don't want to watch it." So that leaves us to watch this. Are you looking forward to this one?
I am looking forward to this one. Big fan of all those actors. Of course, it's my genre. So yeah, I am really looking forward to this one. So
okay, then. Well, that'll be what we'll be doing tomorrow night. In the meantime, we want to thank you for watching, and you can contact me on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, on Twitter or Twitter X, Muskrat Channel, at LewisBrightRave2, DeviantArt.com/BrightRaven, where you can find my artwork, DeviantArt.com/
Fatboy73.
Fatboy73 for Chris, if you want to look at his coloring art. Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube. You've been watching, and for email, it's quoththeravennlbr72@gmail.com. If I don't get back to you on that, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. If you want to reach out to Chris, it is ghthrowingstones@gmail.com. And Saturday, he will be co-hosting for Throwing Stones through Glasshouse Graphics with David Kimpitti. And their guest this week is John Roush.
Yes, colorist extraordinaire. Inspiration of mine from when I first started coloring. So it's I'm really excited to be talking to John.
Okay.
He's one of the best in the industry. And he was one of the seminal colorists on Invincible as well. So, whoops. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Your screen's just freezing up.
Okay. That's weird.
Yes, it is. But that's okay. That'll be Saturday, and we'll give you some more information on that tomorrow evening. So until then, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Quoth the Raven.
Never.